Like so many other women struggling to get pregnant, I had no clue that my cycle was failing me each month. Unfortunately, it took 2 pregnancy losses for me to finally look at each phase of my cycle to make sure that it was as pregnancy and fertility supportive as it could be. Luckily, I was able to figure out what was going on, how to fix it, and support myself, and I was able to stay pregnant longer than 10 weeks. In this video, I share with you 3 key areas that I think you should be basically grading each month to make sure that your body and your cycle is as healthy and fertile as it can be. By the way, I am Erica, your fertility nutritionist, and as always, I'm here to share with you tips and tricks to support your natural fertility. I share these things not only from my professional experience, but also my personal experience and journey to my very own rainbow baby. FYI, I filmed this video right before I went on maternity leave, and as you can imagine, life just started to life and I never posted it. But instead of letting it die on my computer, I really want to still share it with you here today because I think it is still so supportive and can be valuable to anyone who is still struggling to stay pregnant and they haven't figured out the why behind their low fertility. So hopefully this can help you find your why. Good morning. I'm back. Another episode of Fertility Chats with me. If you're new here, I am Erica. I am a fertility nutritionist trained in integrative nutrition, and I specialize in serving women who are struggling to conceive again, specifically because that little window between your last child and your next child can sometimes get bigger and bigger without, of course, that being our desire. And the question is, what's going on and what is happening? I was able to do this beautiful, wonderful thing before. Why can't I do it now? So I help women struggling to conceive again who want to support their egg health. And I shared my signature method, my 120-day method, which is the inverted pyramid, where egg health and egg quality is at the bottom of that awesome pyramid. Good morning, Victoria. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to be talking about egg health and how and why I have my inverted pyramid set up the way that I do, which the step right before egg health is cycle health. So I just want to pin a little comment here. And my question is, do you assess your own egg health? And let me know if you do or don't. Today, like I said, we'll be talking about the 120-day egg method and how one of the main inputs to egg health would be cycle health. What does that mean? How is your cycle health such a big component of your egg health? And the thing that I like to talk about is that ovulation should be the star of our cycle. We're taught to think about our bleeding days, our period days, our menstrual bleeding days as being the star of our cycle, which I just really want to just take that and flip that on its head and make ovulation the star of the cycle, because the most important thing about having a cycle is producing a healthy egg. The most important thing about having a cycle is being able to reproduce. Some of us, if you're here on my page, I'm pretty sure that's why you're here, but not everyone wants to reproduce, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a function of health. A healthy body is a fertile body, right? I say it all the time now, right? And so whether or not you are, of course, like I said, you probably are interested in having a baby and conceiving, but even if you're not, if your body ovulates well, or if your body has a healthy cycle, is a reflection of your health, of estrogen health, of hormone balance, of long-term health as women, of menopause health, like all these things, cancerous, all these things are involved in having a healthy cycle, whether or not you want to have babies or not. Of course, if I'm talking to you, you are probably trying to have a baby. So it is important to know, is your cycle healthy enough to have that baby? Is your cycle healthy enough to get your body and your eggs in the right position to have that baby? This might have to come on off. The weather here is bipolar. It was 80 degrees the other day, and it's snowing today, and I'm all over the place. So that lasted for 2 seconds. So let's start talking about cycle health, right? Let's start talking about how your cycle prepares your eggs each month for pregnancy. Do you assess your own egg health? Can you assess your own egg health? Is this something that you have to go to a fertility clinic or your OB for to get the scans and to get the antral count or the AMH level? Is this something that you can even be doing on your own? So my method, the 120-day method, really hones in on someone's cycle health. And with that, you can zoom out and get a sense of it. Won't be a numerical value. Yes, you won't have a numerical lab value of what your AMH is, right? You won't actually know currently what your actual antral count is. But if you've been following the research, I guess I have, those numbers, they're not arbitrary. I won't go that far. They're not arbitrary, but they're outliers to everything, right? Someone can have really low antral count, someone can have a really low AMH and go on to have a beautiful baby, right? There's so many nuances and maybe flukes, could even say, nuances and little things because the human body is so amazing, because we are wonderfully made. These things don't 100% dictate your fertility. These things don't 100% dictate your ability to go on and have a baby. They're just a tool, there's just a guide, there's just a way for clinics and all that to, they like data. I guess I like data too, but just to hone in and group people like, hey, you're a good candidate, and group these people over here based on your numbers. No, you're not a good candidate because they may not want to serve you because they want to keep their numbers high. In some cases, not all clinics are set up like that, but sometimes your numbers may say, unfortunately, because your numbers are so low, we can't even consider you as a candidate. So the numbers are important to a point, but then after that, I think we should just scrap them. So when you are assessing your cycle each month, I'm curious, what kinds of things are you looking at? Are you grading yourself? Oh, I had a pretty good cycle. How are you grading yourself? Are you just looking at your bleeding days? So I'm here to tell you that if you are grading your cycle, these are the things that you should be looking at. These are a few other things you should be looking at. I'm going to just talk about three. First one will be your follicular phase. That is the first thing in your cycle that you should be assessing or grading or keeping track of from cycle to cycle. So your follicular phase is the first half of your cycle leading to ovulation. And that phase is so important because it is, as the name says, it's called the follicular phase. It's all about the follicle. It's all about preparing and developing the follicle. Mia says, I've been trying to lengthen my luteal phase length. Awesome. That is so key, so important. And luteal phase is the finale, if you will. Last but not least comes a luteal phase in each cycle. So it is definitely vitally important. So yes, definitely is a good point to be keeping track of. And that is my number 3, by the way. So we're still on number 1. So number 1 will be tracking your follicular phase. The follicular phase prepares, develops, matures the follicle, which will prepare, develop, mature the egg inside. And it is important that we have a follicular phase that can do all of that. There's a part of your cycle that's dedicated each month to preparing and giving nutrients and support and energizing, all those things, preparing the egg for ovulation. If you're someone who ovulates early, so everyone's not going to be textbook, right? But if you're ovulating 10 days into your cycle, 9 days into your cycle, that means you only had 9 days to prepare within that current cycle. You only had 9 days to prepare that egg for ovulation. And then you need to ask yourself, is that sufficient enough? And a lot of times the answer is no. A lot of times the answer is no, that is not a healthy duration time frame to prepare a healthy egg. And so, of course, we're not all textbook, but we want it to be long enough that we can make sure that there is enough time to prepare the egg. And because during that time, the egg needs to go from an immature phase stage that it's been held at since puberty. So when we start puberty, that's when we start developing our eggs. Since the egg developed initially, and eggs initially develop when we're born. That's the time frame, right? Then puberty starts, and then each month after that, a new corral, a new group of eggs are recruited every month. And then there's that one magical, beautiful winner that is ovulated. These eggs have been dormant, and you make sure that the timing is right and that everything that is needed in place. So that's when people start talking about things like CoQ10 or mitochondrial health. You may hear some of these terms sometimes because you want to make sure that the egg can start to develop and have the boost that it needs. One of the bits about age related infertility is that mitochondrial health, the thing that energizes your egg. It's like a little, it's part of your cell, basically. It's part of your egg cell. As we get older, our mitochondria do slow down. And if it's supposed to be the powerhouse, the power factory, and it's slowing down, is there enough for the little engine that could? Is there enough to chug to the finish line? So that's when people get recommended CoQ10 a lot because it's very supportive to crank that engine back up for your mitochondria to energize your cell so it can do all the tasks, go down the checklist one by one of what all needs to happen before ovulation. And so for myself, I shared with you before that I did the Dutch test. And I've also probably shared with you before that it is integrated into my program because it is, I feel like, so invaluable, so invaluable to highlight and pinpoint each part of someone's cycle. Because you can go in for a test on cycle day X, you can go in to see what's going on with this one hormone on cycle day, whatever. But no one can really tell you, except for the Dutch test. The Dutch test can tell you each day of your cycle, this is the crescendo, and this is the ebb and flow of specifically your estrogen and your progesterone. There we go. And so with that, you can see, okay, this is your estrogen starting to increase. This is your follicle starting to develop. This is your egg starting to develop. And it looks like it tapers off. What was mine? I think mine was 10. Sorry, I didn't pull it up before I jumped on, but I think mine was cycle day 10. My egg health, my estrogen levels were teetering off on cycle day 10. There was not that much time in that current cycle to develop a healthy egg. So it's almost like this is the best that we can do. We're just going to go ahead and ovulate in a few days. On the cycle that I submitted to Dutch, I ovulated on cycle day 12 or 13, and my peak estrogen day was on cycle day 10. And so it's just a matter of, it's timing, it's having all the right tools. It's about being able to supply the follicle, supply the egg with all the things that it needs in that limited time. Because again, once ovulation, once that egg leaves the follicle, it's the bird has left the nest, it's on its way. And so if you don't have a healthy, robust follicle phase, what all is going on? Also, during that time, your body is doing a little bit of work on the uterine lining because within your follicle phase, the first few days you are bleeding, but as soon as it all sheds, it's time to start rebuilding, right? So you need to make sure that there's enough estrogen to develop the egg, there's enough estrogen to start thicken the uterine lining. Eventually, progesterone will come along and it'll help out too, but estrogen does play a role in that. So, yes, follicular phase is very important. I'm going to come back to it in a second when we do step 3 because it's everything is happening like at the same time and there's no like isolated start stop. There is, but it's just something comes to the foreground and something else goes to the background. It doesn't necessarily stop, but it just takes a back seat. So your follicular phase is all about estrogen doing this thing, and it takes a back seat because progesterone is going to take over in a second. So the next thing I would say to look at to assess your cycle health to see if you have good egg health is your cervical mucus. So again, each cycle, your body is trying to ovulate and get pregnant, right? That's just how we were developed. That's what our cycles are for, to get us pregnant. And so each cycle, that's the main goal. So if you don't have good quality cervical mucus, that may be something that's getting in the way of your ability to get pregnant because you and your partner are basically 50-50, right? There's some sperm that's 50% of the baby's genetic material. Then there's the egg that's 50% of the baby's genetic material. But you need to have those two beautiful things come together. And the only way to do that is in the right environment. The setting needs to be right, and cervical mucus is a really critical to making that setting, to having that setting ideal and optimal for the sperm. Of course, we are marketed to tell us that we need to be cleaning our vaginal environment and we need to be douching and having all these wipes and soaps and all these things, right? But that's false. And we could actually be doing some harm and detriment to our pH levels, to our vaginal environment. And then, of course, if it's time around the time when you are trying to conceive, that is all kind of messing up with how friendly your vaginal environment can be to the sperm, because it's all everything has a set point. It doesn't want to be too hot or too cold, right? It needs to be just right in the middle. And so your cervical mucus needs to be the optimal conditions to it's like a handoff. Your partner has semen that the sperm swims in, and your cervical mucus is like the handoff for that sperm. After time, semen breaks down, right? It's not the same thickness that it was, right? And it gets a little thinner. So it has a shelf life. The semen does, right? The sperm is still living in there or trying to, but the semen is slowly breaking apart. So if your partner is when you and your partner are having sex, that is the time where the sperm is basically being handed over to the cervical mucus. So you want to make sure you have good quality cervical mucus because the semen is not going to last that long. It's going to start to get slippery and do its little thing. But if you have good quality egg white, stretchy, clear, looks like mucus, cervical fluid, whatever you want to call it, that is like A plus plus environment for the sperm to live in. So basically, during your cycle, if you aren't tracking and then therefore noticing that your body produces that good quality, stretchy, clear, mucus looking cervical mucus, it's a question to see, okay, is this a reflection of my estrogen? So estrogen, egg health, cervical mucus, they're all neighbors, sisters, cousins, whatever. They're all right there informing on each other. So if you have good quality egg white cervical mucus, then you probably have really good estrogen levels and you probably have really good egg health. It's not a perfect science, trying to assess it that way, but it is a way to think about it. If these two things are coming from the same boat, from estrogen, my egg health, and my cervical mucus, can I figure out, okay, what's going on with those things? Melanin McKay Davis, you are asking, can you not see the cervical mucus and still ovulate? So you're saying, even if you don't see cervical mucus, can you ovulate? Absolutely, absolutely. It is not a necessarily one-to-one indicator that you are ovulating or not. It is an indicator, however, about how well you're ovulating. Ovulation, it's an event for sure, but it has a quality. Is there good ovulation? Is there better ovulation? Are you ovulating the best possible way that you can, right? And so it is a good indicator of how well you're ovulating because it is preparing again because of the way that it reflects estrogen. It lets you know, it can let you allude to how well your body is piecing together all those other parts. And so when you are ovulating without producing the best quality egg white, the best quality cervical mucus, it just makes it more difficult for sperm to survive. That's the kicker, I guess. And then it's a question of, it doesn't matter if you ovulate or not, perhaps, if the sperm is never able to hitch a ride and get up to the egg in the first place, right? So you want to make sure, or to survive long enough. So the thing about the stretchy, again, it's the handoff from the sperm swims from the semen to the cervical mucus. It's the handoff. So if you don't have good quality, the sperm can't survive as long. You should be able to have an environment that lets sperm last for 5 days, which is why we want to beat ovulation. So you want to have sex before you ovulate, right? So it's just one of those. Again, when you're in the bubble of this, when you're on the struggle bus, right? We're on the bus of, okay, this isn't as easy as I thought. This is when you want to, what's the word? Like nail down and double down on all the things possible. If This is something I should be working on. Let's work on that. If this is on the list too, let's be working on that. What can I do to tip these scales back in my favor? So cervical mucus is definitely on that list, right? Okay, tell me all the things that I can and should be doing to shift things back in my favor, even just a few percentage. I just need my chances to go up a little bit. It only takes that one time, that one egg, that one magical event, right? It is definitely a red flag to keep answering. I'm still talking about the same question. It's definitely a red flag that, why don't I have good quality cervical mucus? And if I don't, what else is going on? Okay, what can be done to increase cervical mucus? So this is why I have my inverted pyramid, my signature method, the 120-day egg method. And that is all the steps that need to be worked out. So egg health is on the bottom, egg quality is on the bottom, cycle health, which is all these parts, cervical mucus, cervical position, basal body temperature, all these different things are on that line for cycle health. And then above that is hormone health. And then above that is whole body health. So it's just a matter of getting your body, aligning your body to your fertility. And we all have a unique blueprint. We have a unique blueprint of our fertility. Even if we all have the same diagnosis of AMH, even if you have the same diagnosis as the girl next to you, the cause and the why of yours is different. So to increase cervical mucus is just all about you figuring out what your blueprint is, what your fingerprint is, and then figuring out the blueprint. So currently, what's going on in your health? What's going on in your diet? What's going on in your lifestyle? What habits are you neglecting? What habits do you have too much in excess? What are the things that are key or missing to you specifically? What key supplements, what key nutrients are you neglecting, missing out on? How is your absorption? Are you, maybe you have the most amazing diet, but your body isn't absorbing those things. So you aren't breaking down those nutrients. You're not taking them in. They have nowhere to go. So all those things can be the issue, and it's just a matter of figuring out your unique blueprint. So this is how I have done for myself and my clients, just finding the shape of everything. Next question: can we have a regular period and not ovulate? I'm just curious. What's your instinct telling you? Or anyone else who's on, what do you all think? Can you have a regular period and not ovulate? I'm gonna sip my water and see if anyone responds. Y'all got water and tea. I didn't know if I was hot or cold. Okay, no brave souls. Okay, there we go, Mia. Mia says, yes, you can have a regular period. And she says, yes, you can still not ovulate. Ding, 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 gold star, star pupil. Go ahead, Mia. Go ahead. Okay, she's just taking this all and leading. Yes, you can bleed regularly without ovulating. Absolutely. So this is the just the annoyance that I have with modern. I don't know. Does it stem back from health class? Have we been failed since high school? We're now in our 30s and 40s, and we don't know these things. So I don't know who failed us or who's continuing to fail us. But yes, it's a myth. It's a total complete myth or misunderstanding that if you're bleeding, you're ovulating. Those two are not attached. For example, the best example I can give is that when you are taking the pill, you bleed every month, right? The way that the pill is set up. There's a nice little week where the dosage goes down and you have a bleed, right? But the whole point of taking the pill is that you don't ovulate because we're not trying to get pregnant. Let me not do a whole like phys ed class. Let me just answer the question. So the trick is that bleed that does not follow an ovulation is called a breakthrough bleed. That bleed that you have, whether you're on the pill or whether you have it's called an ovulatory, an ovulatory cycle is a cycle where one does not ovulate. And we can have them maybe once or twice a year. Not everyone, it's not like the end of the world. Oh my God, something's wrong. You want to ovulate every month, but sometimes there's something that just as often it can happen. But if you're having multiple consecutive and ovulatory cycles where you don't, that's a problem. But to your point, absolutely. How am I supposed to know if I'm not ovulating or not? Because I'm bleeding every month. So that's what it gets very tricky. So you're specifying, but you're not taking a pill, and then bleeding isn't. So it's not technically a period. I think you're just repeating, just clarifying what I'm saying. Yes, is not technically, yeah, that's the perfect phrase. Not technically a period because the bleed did not follow ovulation. That is probably the best way to say it, yes. So it is just called a withdrawal bleed, and your body has sometimes that lining gets so thick, it has to go somewhere. It's like a breaking of the dam, so to speak, because it's been thickening. Other parts of your cycle are doing their job and working well and cruising along, and the uterine lining is getting thick and it's preparing to embed a nice fertilized egg. Come on with the egg. Where's the egg? All right, we're waiting for the egg, right? And it's waiting and waiting, waiting, and you never ovulate. And then it's finally, okay, I can't keep holding on to these blood vessels. We need to shed. We need to shed off, and you can have a bleed. And then one more quick little note, because I like have to share everything in my head every time I talk. That's dangerous because you are only ever being exposed to estrogen. Progesterone never gets a chance to come to the forefront. And estrogen is like Goldilocks, right? Estrogen, you don't want too much, and you, of course, we need it to have all this going on, right? To be the woman that we are, we do need to have healthy estrogen, but we need it to flip flop with progesterone every cycle. Progesterone chills estrogen out, and of course, there's estrogen based cancers, right? Whether it's uterine cancers or breast cancers, it's just we don't need too much estrogen all the time, or we need it to be metabolized and deactivate. That's the word, deactivate. All those things that happen to estrogen. And so if you don't, and which is what I was saying in the beginning, it doesn't matter if you want to have a baby or not, which I'm sure if you're talking to me, you probably do. But even if you are someone who isn't, or maybe not right now, or maybe down the line, whatever it is, you need a healthy cycle. These hormones have important jobs to play. Estrogen, progesterone, all these hormones have very important roles to play outside of preparing our bodies for pregnancy and fertility and all those good things. It's health. Health is fertility, fertility is health. So it's just a matter of getting those. Progesterone is protective. So we need to have it back and forth. So if you do not ever ovulate, your progesterone levels do not ever rise in a way that is protective to turn estrogen off, tell her to chill out, sit down for just one quick second. Estrogen needs to chill out, let progesterone take over for a minute. Okay. I think I've explained it just enough. Let me know if you still have any questions. So let me move on to my last point. Luteal phase, which someone at the beginning, I think it was Mia, was saying this is something that she's checking on every month. This is one of her priorities of assessing her fertility, increasing her fertility, supporting her fertility. She knows that she needs to be looking at her luteal phase. So your luteal phase is the second half of your cycle after ovulation. The first half was the follicular phase. The second half is the luteal, or however you want to say it. This phase is important because this is when progesterone takes the front seat. This is when progesterone shines. There are health benefits, like I mentioned. There's people who have like really bad PMS or depression, anxiety, all those things around their cycle, because there's like a neuroprotective effect. There's all these different pathways, right? Again, it doesn't always have to be about you preparing for pregnancy. Of course, it's what we care about. So let's just focus on the cycle part, right? Progesterone tells the uterine lining to accept and allow a fertilized egg to embed. Progesterone also tells the uterine lining to maintain and increase the nutrients and increase the blood supply, and making sure that uterine lining is the best of the best. Okay, we have this amazing egg coming. We need to make this plush and lush and 5-star, right? Your uterine lining. Progesterone is doing that. Estrogen also plays a role in the second half of your cycle. Progesterone takes a front seat. The only way to get good, strong, healthy levels of progesterone in the luteal phase, the second half of your phase post ovulation, is to have had a good, strong, healthy first half of your cycle in the follicular phase. The follicle is housing the egg, producing the egg, maturing the egg. And when that egg leaves the follicle then starts to produce progesterone. First, it's all about estrogen. then it's all about the progesterone. It's the same follicle, it got 2 jobs, okay? It's got a first shift and a second shift. And they decided to name the follicle corpus luteum now, hence the word luteal phase. This is where we get all these names from. Not important, but just in case you ever want to know why these things are named these things. So it's important that you have a good first half. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Like you have to start strong to finish strong, right? So you have to have a good first half of your cycle, a good, strong, healthy follicle. You have to have nourished your body, nourished your follicle, fed it the right things, avoided damaging things, avoided inflammation and stress and right? Don't jack it up in the first half, and then it'll still be good and healthy in the second half. So a lot of times when people have luteal phase issues, luteal phase defects, it's tempting to just look in, okay, what's going on with progesterone? Why is my progesterone not high? Do I need to take progesterone cream? Do I need progesterone? It's tempting to only look at that. And those things are very important. But if you zoomed out, you remember when progesterone is coming from the first half of the cycle. So did I miss anything on the first go? Hey, Liz, thank you for joining. So we're talking all cycle health, all about my signature method, the 120-day egg. If the egg is at the bottom, what's all up here? Cycle health, a healthy cycle is going to get you a healthy egg, and hopefully a healthy cycle will get you pregnant, right? If you're interested in natural pregnancy, you need to have a healthy natural cycle, right? And so luteal phase defect, if you aren't familiar with the term, it refers to someone who has issues with the second half of their cycle, namely cycle length, namely luteal phase length is the biggest issue. Within that, progesterone levels is also a big issue. So if you're someone who's struggling with the number of days post ovulation to your next bleed, you are someone who may be considered to have a luteal phase defect. But again, my reminder to you is don't get so bogged down on that. Remember that it's a sequel. Yeah, it has a role and it's important, and you need to figure out the nuances there within. But because it is coming off of the first half, make sure that is intact, in sync as well. So a healthy luteal phase would end at least, we're talking at least 12 days post ovulation. And you want to make sure that, so going back to the Dutch test, again, it's part of my program. Every client will be taking the Dutch test if they enroll with me. I did it. I've used it on my my clients in the past. It is chef's kiss. So I'll use myself as an example. I'll share with you what my Dutch test showed. Again, I didn't pull it up, but I've been looking at things so long, I should have it memorized. My luteal phase was 10. My luteal phase was 10 days, and it needs to be 12. It needs to be a good 12, 14. 10 is struggle bus. So mine wasn't long enough. My luteal phase wasn't long enough to support let's say me and husband did the do. I had the good cervical mucus. We timed it right. Let's say there's a good, healthy, fertilized egg multiple times, right? But then it will make it to because it has to travel right from your fallopian tube down your uterus, and needs to have the right signals to embed into your uterine lining. There's steps, right? It's not just like boom boom. So it takes at least 7 to 10 days. It's always a range, right? 7 to 10 days for that egg to get from the fertilized egg to get from the fallopian tube to get down into embed, set up shop, send out signals. Hey, I'm here. I'm here to the rest of your body. It's 7 to 10 days. Mine was right at 10. So for all I know, I could have been shedding a perfectly healthy fertilized egg, but my body didn't have enough time to recognize that a pregnancy was like starting, and my next cycle would come month after month. This is a possibility. So if you have 9 days, you have 8 days, you have a short luteal phase. And don't get me wrong, most likely these things aren't isolated. It's very unlikely that you have this rockin' all-star, amazing first half of your cycle and then a really poo second half. They're probably both a little poo. But hey, there's Nothing is set in stone. So maybe you do have this rocking all-star first half and this really blue second half, the follicular half. And so it's just important to know that all these pieces are important. All these pieces are important for getting pregnant, which is why I make sure to encourage people to use the word cycle, to talk about their cycle. I care about your bleeding days because, that does tell me something about maybe your uterine lining. It can tell me something about uterine congestion if your bleeding days are off or your blood quality is off. It definitely can inform. But it's like number 3, 4, 5, right? On my list of priorities. My list of priorities is, are you ovulating? Are you ovulating well? And then we can talk about your period, your actual bleeding days. So your luteal phase is just that final piece that you need to have in place to support a healthy pregnancy. The other issue is that your luteal phase is, again, this is where your progesterone is coming from. So myself, when I took my Dutch test, one of the things that it shows you on the cycle mapping test, it maps, like I'm saying, it maps all your hormones, was that my progesterone levels were not robust at all. A good, strong, healthy range for fertility would be a progesterone in levels 15, 20, maybe. Mine was 9. It was 9. Okay. So again, I could have been having a really cute little fertilized egg, the cutest little egg ever, month after month, who knows? But there wasn't enough progesterone to tell my body, hey, don't start the next cycle. Let's nourish this lining, let's nourish this egg, and let's have this pregnancy start. And then the other issue too is that for women who have miscarriages or repeat miscarriages, early miscarriage, is it a progesterone level? There's lots of things that it could be, right? But is it a progesterone level? Is it an issue that there isn't enough progesterone to hold on to the pregnancy? Because like I was saying before, my little hand gestures, estrogen and progesterone have like a sliding relationship. You go, no, you go. No, it's like a back and forth. So if progesterone is starting to slide back too early and not really staying strong and robust, what's going to happen? Estrogen is going to take the front seat and the next cycle is going to start. So people who have spotting, you have spotting in luteal phase, that's your body basically saying that progesterone is on the struggle bus a little bit and it's starting to slide off, maybe too early. And if that's happening, what other miscommunications and missed signals are happening? Or let me know if anyone has any questions or comments about my psycho health one-on-one lecture. I don't want it to just be like informative. I want it to be supportive, if that makes sense. So let me know if you have like specific questions about your egg health, or your cycle health, excuse me, or your luteal phase. But so this is why, again, if you're not tracking your cycle and you're trying to get pregnant naturally, what you doing, boom? What you doing? What's your plan? Maybe you know something I don't know. Because I don't know how anyone can be doing that. If you're trying to get pregnant naturally and you're not tracking all these phases of your cycle, I just talked about 3 for today: follicular phase, cervical mucus, and luteal phase. If you're not even tracking those 3 pieces of your cycle, what you doing? Unless, again, you know something that I don't know. So let me know. But I just wanted to make sure that we just see the value of it. I talk about it so much, cycle health, and just making sure that I talk about these things so often, but I just want to make sure that we understand what they are, what each of them does, why they are so important, why it is important for natural pregnancy to get these things in order, why you need to be looking for these red flags in your own cycle, because you need all these pieces in place and you need them to go well. Like I was trying to allude to earlier, there's ovulation, then there's, are you ovulating? Are you ovulating or are you ovulating? How many times do you need to do the Dutch test? The word need definitely implies that there's a certain requirement, but I would answer ideally. How many times is ideal to do the Dutch test? And I would say twice. I personally only took it once. Was that ideal? No, but that's how it went. I have had clients who take it in the beginning and then, because I work in a 4-month block, and then come back around and you can retake just certain portions of it. But to answer your question, twice, and that is to set up your baseline. We're going to work together for a few months. You probably, and again, my program is 4 months. Then you'll I give you the blueprint, you take it, you run with it, and then we can do a follow up, let's say 6 months out. and you can redo it. And that is, and let me go back to me. I only took it once because I noticed cycle changes. I started to see the cycle changes that I wanted. I started to see the cycle changes that I knew needed to happen. And life happens, and boom, I found out that I was pregnant. We had to specifically stop trying for, I want to say, 6 months. Um, one of the beautiful things about cycle tracking is that you can use it for fertility awareness. You can use it for pregnancy avoidance for the rest of your life. Like, I plan to never be on hormonal birth control ever again. And so I knew the days I should not be trying. So we didn't try for 6 months, if that makes any sense. And so the cycle changes, I needed to see my luteal phase got longer. I ovulated later in my cycle. My follicular phase got longer. I didn't personally struggle with, well, that's not entirely true. I had egg white cervical mucus. I actually probably had too much of it. I had probably estrogen dominance, where my progesterone, I knew my progesterone was poop. I knew that. So my progesterone wasn't strong enough to turn down estrogen. So it was just like high all the time. And so I didn't have that issue of having lack of good quality cervical mucus. But I knew it was an estrogen problem because, again, too much is too much of a good thing may not be a good thing. So I didn't take it twice. The scientist in me, the geek in me, yeah, would have loved to get those numbers and even to be able to talk about it and share with you very clearly, but I did, and I'm getting the baby, so it all worked out. But yeah, ideally, I would have liked to be able to document that. But financially, we can talk about that, a real conversation about that. If you just want to do it once, it's expensive. It's not as, have I not mentioned that? It's expensive, which is why I have it part of my program. So you don't have to worry about paying for it and figuring out, like, it's just all rolled in, all built in. And I have decided which test is best because they have multiple tests and all that good stuff. And actually, you get 2 tests through my program. But if you wanted, you could just do one test, and that's the cycle mapping test, and just redo that one over again. The cycle mapping test is a diagnostic test. I'm using that word. I'm using that word. They don't use that word. It shows you the problem. No, it shows you the problem. But I have pieced it together with another one of their tests that shows you the why of the problem. So the cycle mapping test will show you, girl, for me, your estrogen is doing this over here, your progesterone is doing this over here. Okay, you you can use that information for sure, but you don't. I still wasn't able to quite know what habits and nutrition and blockages and deficiencies specifically did I have had I not paired it with the other part. It's just one of those, it's just a number game. You need to figure out what your priorities are and financially which one you can afford. I do offer a one-on-one consultation for people who just want to do the Dutch test and not do my full program. And I will work with you to reach your results, and I will still work with you to give you a recommendation list. It just wouldn't be the 4 month long, let's chip away at this. It would just be specific to and only to inform you of what's going on with your Dutch test and how that is showing that you have what's going on. But just know, Dutch a hormone test, a cycle mapping hormone test. I like to call it a whole body fertility test. You can go to a clinic, yeah, and they'll tell your estradiol is this, your prolactin is this, your FSH is this. Those are like fertility specific, like womb specific. There's a connection, of course, between your brain and your womb. But I like the Dutch test because it is a whole body fertility test. As you know, I'm always talking about, it takes the whole body to get healthy. And so it lets you know what other pieces, what other feeders, what other inputs that are key to fertility are also off. Because even if I know that my FSH is this, my LH is this, okay, I can't do nothing with the information. I knew something was wrong. Now you told me what the it was. Okay, I knew something was wrong, but okay, fine, great. You gave me a name for it. Wonderful. Thanks for helping me. Sarcasm, right? But I need to know, okay, why are those things wrong? What? So that's why I love the whole bodiness of the 2 Dutch tests that I offer my clients because it tells you the why of the why, the underpinning, the root cause, the what's going on that's causing causing me to ovulate early. Why is this happening? And what inflammation, what because it's just a whole body thing, okay? A healthy body is a fertile body. I do I obviously recommend it because it's part of my program, but I do also recommend if you just want to take the test by itself. That's something we could work out. I do offer it. I have a different. I talk about my program all the time. But I do have a different price sheet for things like that, like one-off support, because you can't just order it yourself. You need a provider attached to it, and your OB may never have even heard of it. So you can holler at your girl. So let me know, should I go back over my Dutch test results? Should I go back over the Dutch test, the hows and the whys of why? So I did it before, so I can reshare those. I think those are like 30, 40 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna work on that, figure out how to do that because I wanna be as clear as possible and make sure you all know like why I have things set up the way that I have. I talk about myself the most because it's just the easiest. I know my story inside and out. Oh, okay, quick question right here. Luke Inflow is asking, will you have any info on premature ovarian insufficiency? So the clearest answer is I don't have a specific video or like post dedicated to that exact thing. The and that is because if you follow along, you hear me talk about all the time. I don't really care about diagnoses. So I don't pinpoint exactly one thing and talk about it because I focus on whole body health so much, I focus on like the root causes of why anything is going on. So for premature ovarian insufficiency, a lot of times it's just a disconnect. When you're sending out a signal, the question is the receiver the problem or the sender the problem? So are your ovaries not responding well, or is the signal to tell your ovaries to develop eggs and develop follicles, is that signal not loud enough? And then the question is, no matter which, what is the interference? So I talk more about interference. I talk about the why behind those things because they both most likely are have the same thing. Your premature ovarian insufficiency may have the same cause as someone else's luteal phase defect because my inverted pyramid, it all starts with whole body health and the way that your body can. I talk a lot about supply and demand. Like, is there enough to go around to tell your body, let's develop eggs, let's support a pregnancy, let's ovulate every month on time? Does your body have enough to go around to support those things? Or are you dealing with something else, a known thing? You have this other disorder, this other body complication over here, or is it something that you could even be unaware of? Oh, I had no clue that was going on because we're so used to living in our body that our normal becomes our normal. But then you maybe talk to someone like me who's not normal, and that happens a lot. Like I distinctly have this conversation a lot. People like, no, that's normal, and have a debate with someone like, yeah, normal for you doesn't mean that it's normal. I'm laughing because I literally just had this conversation like 2 weeks ago, trying to convince someone that their normal wasn't normal. Anywho, so to your question, as the way that I would support someone with premature ovarian insufficiency would definitely be, again, part of my program is that everyone takes the Dutch test and to figure out what your estrogen is doing, why your ovary isn't possibly responding, or why the signal to your ovary isn't strong enough. And of those two, or both of those, it could be both, of course, what is getting in the way? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Are you missing the key building blocks? Is it internal stress, damaging stress, things that are basically damaging your body's ability, your tissues and your cells and all of those things, their abilities to do their job and perform well? Is it hormone imbalance? So could it be liver health? Is the liver not able to metabolize and deactivate or compartmentalize hormones? Is it a weight issue? And by weight, it means I don't care your body type or size, but is there an excess body fat issue? Because excess body fat holds and stores and distorts your estrogen balance. Get where I'm going with this? It could be so many things. Hello, hello, hello. Uh-oh, I'm tapping the wrong things. Hello, everyone who is joining. So it can be so many things. So I rarely ever nitpick a specific thing. I guess I could to talk to you all more about your exact diagnosis, but I don't, it's not like I don't believe in it, but that's not valuable to me. Your diagnosis and you getting that label is not valuable to me. You knew something was wrong when, you've been struggling. You having a name for it now, how does this help you? It doesn't quite help you because we're addicted to labels. The label doesn't matter. It's the why of the label. It's the underpinning of the label. It's the cause. That is what's going to help you. You can label me anything that you want, but how are you going to help me? Okay, I have premature ovarian insufficiency. Now what? Like how what am I supposed to do with this information? So that's why I like to work from a different paradigm. I worked from the paradigm, okay, of the root cause of the symptoms. What's going on in your cycle? What's going on with your menstrual health? What's going on in your whole body health? I can do something with that information. Me having a label or you having a label, it's useful, yes, but it doesn't get you anywhere. You still don't know why. You still don't know why you have that. So me, the way that I work is a full diagnosis, a full diagnostic, I should say, whole health history. Did you know that whether or not you were born you yourself, if you were born vaginally, is still informing on your health today? That's my paradigm. Okay, that's the way that I look at things because those pieces are important. The label, sure. Give me the label. Give it to me. I guess I'll take. I still don't know anything about myself. I don't know what my diagnosis was, my label. I don't know what my antral count was. I don't know what my AMH count because that stuff wasn't important to me because I couldn't do anything with the information. What I did seek out and find testing and support for was what is going on with my health? What is going on with my whole body health? What is my systemic inflammation? What is my oxidative stress level? What's going on internally on a cellular basis? Because, of course, our eggs are cells. They happen to be the largest cell of our body. But our eggs are just cells. They're just part of this whole vast thing. And things that I knew I had been accepting and putting off. And there were things that I hadn't even really pieced the dots together yet. Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to that. That's what I care about. Okay, let me just scroll up real quick. Okay, yeah, you're disagreeing with me. Yeah, cool. It's so scary though. It is terrifying to have these labels. It's terrifying to be labeled infertile. I don't talk about infertility. I don't say that I have infertility. I don't say that you have infertility. I say that you have fertility struggles. I say that you have low fertility. I say that there's something blocking your fertility. I say that there's an obstacle or obstruction to your fertility. You're not infertile. Infertile is such a weird word. No one's in, for the most part, the vast majority, I'm even gonna pick a number, 99.999% of us were not born unable to have children, right? That's called being sterile. But that's not that. There's something else going on. There's a blockage. And certainly for someone who's had a child and can't have another child, or someone who's gotten pregnant even and then had a miscarriage, it's like you're right there on a bubble. You have it, you just don't have all the pieces, all the supporting pieces. So you're not infertile. You just need some support, specific, tailored support, maybe, yeah. But the label doesn't get you anywhere except fear. And it jacks up your confidence and it affects your. I talk about that too. That was definitely a shift for me myself. And I talk with I've had lots of clients say that there's a shift in your confidence, a belief in your body, a feeling of wholeness and wellness again in your body. That's undeniable. But when you have well-intending professionals giving us these labels, that shakes your confidence, that shakes your ability. But if you have someone say, if you went in and they told you instead that, I'm trying to think of even how I would phrase it, but just if someone had said instead of premature ovarian insufficiency, if someone had said instead that you have plenty of eggs left, we never run out of eggs, so you definitely have plenty of eggs left. We just need to figure out a way to get your eggs to respond again. That's a whole different conversation, a whole different sentence than this scary label. And whatever. Let me not keep going. But those things are not set in stone. I hope you at least can take that away, that this label is not set in stone. This is just your current lab values are showing that. But guess what? Lab values reflect yesterday. You took those labs, whatever day, month, year, that was then. Okay. They reflect your past. You go in on a Tuesday, they give you your results by Friday. On Tuesday, this was your fertility landscape, basically. That was in the past already, even a few days later. We want to talk about your future. It does not tell you where you are going. It doesn't tell you what and how far those numbers can change or improve, how you can get your body to respond again. If you're in your 30s or even if you're in your early 40s, there's definitely, until you're in menopause, there's definitely time to regain things and to re-energize and re-stimulate and reinvigorate all those re's. Okay, get your body supported once again and have your strong natural fertility, increase that to a level that you can finally be able to consider natural pregnancy and consider, oh, I have a shot at this. And that is, I'm telling you from personal experience, that is a game changer. Okay. When you can oh, I think this can work. When you have that aha moment, it is the most beautiful thing. I didn't get pregnant the next day, but definitely it was months later, but definitely when I had that moment, the dark cloud, the grief, the storm cloud that just had been living with me and in me. It was such a wonderful experience. And I want that for you. And like I said, I care about your diagnoses, but I don't in the sense of, okay, but why? But why? Can we figure out why? That's what I care about. Oh, okay, so she's asking now, how do we sign up for your services? So I am how many 30 weeks pregnant at this point. So yes, go to my link tree. You can DM me too if you want to talk to me about some more details. And it just says, join Make Every Egg Count, I think is what it says. And you can read more about the program and all that's included and how it's set up and all that good stuff. But short answer, I'm currently accepting clients. I would love to support anyone in the coming months as I can, because I want everyone to have what I have. I talk about myself, and I know it's hard to talk about other people being pregnant and see pictures of people. Been there, 100% done that. I couldn't even look at my own pregnancy pictures. But I do intermittently because I just want to continue to be, I would say, a beacon. That light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe you don't quite see how you're going to get there, but just to have something to believe in, some story of hope, something like a confidence builder that this is possible. This is possible to do naturally. IVF works for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. IVF should be for some people. It shouldn't be the first and only thing for everybody.